Hello and welcome to this presentation, executable orders or price to be fixed. A common type of commodity forward contract sometimes includes an arrangement between the physical participant and the commodity dealer where a price to be fixed agreement is struck today and is benchmarked against a transparent futures price at a later date. The price of a price to be fixed agreement can be determined by either the seller or the buyer when dealing with the commodity dealer on any date between now and a set date in the future. In order to appreciate why various participants in the physical market may wish to engage in such types of orders, we're going to look at an example now. In this example, we're going to look at how a farmer, a dealer, and a refiner can engage in prices to be fixed contracts or executable orders and each benefit at the same time. Now, the farmer today on the 1st of June is anxious to secure a forward contract with a commodity dealer where they can be confident that they can sell their commodity in the market. So the dealer allows the farmer to engage in a seller's executable order. In other words, the farmer has an option to essentially sell the commodity at any time between the 1st of June and September to the dealer. And the dealer quotes a bid price, a buying price for the commodity today on the 1st of June. And they say to the farmer, we will pay you whatever the prevailing September futures price is on the day you decide to execute your order to sell to us, and we'll pay you whatever the September futures price is plus $4. Now let's suppose they engage in this contract, a little time goes by, we come to the 30th of June, and the dealer is then approached by, in this example, a refiner. And the refiner in this example wishes to engage in a buyer's executable order. In other words, the refiner now is anxious to secure with the dealer a contract where the refiner knows that the dealer will be obligated to deliver to them a commodity. So the buyer of the executable order knows that they have secured this commitment to take delivery of a commodity. And once again, just like in the case of the farmer, the refiner wishes to have this option that they don't want to fix the price just now, but at a certain day between the 30th of June and sometime in September. So what the dealer will do is offer to sell the physical to the refiner in this example at whatever the prevailing September price is when the executable order is carried out, plus $6. So the idea is then that the farmer ideally wants to be able to, between now and September, pick their moment in which to sell their commodity to the dealer. Ideally, what the farmer wants is to see prices go as high as possible and then pick an opportune moment in which to sell to the dealer. If they see commodity prices starting to fall, then maybe they'll be anxious to execute their executable order as soon as possible. Conversely, the refiner is ideally wanting to see commodity prices fall between June and September and pick their moment in which to execute their particular order. From the dealer's perspective, what they want to do is to be able to satisfy both of their clients, if you like, in the market, and at the same time try and lock in a profit. And we can see here that they're currently quoting a spread of +4 and +6 on the offered side. In other words, a difference of $2. And what we'll see is that later on the dealer is able to execute the orders with the two participants in the markets and at the same time lock in this spread of $2. Let's suppose now we move to the 1st of August and the farmer has seen crop prices rally and notices that the crop prices are just beginning to turn and he fears that crop prices are likely to fall. So he sees this as a good opportunity to contact the dealer and decide to exercise his seller's executable order. Now recall that the dealer is committed to buy the commodity from the farmer at the prevailing September price, in this case, on August the 1st. And we can see that September futures are trading at 125. Notice also that the dealer promised to pay $4 on top of the prevailing futures price to buy the commodity from the farmer. So in this case, we can see that the dealer goes long with the physical at $129. Now, of course, if you're long with the physical, you are concerned that physical prices are going to fall whilst you're holding the physical commodity. So in order to hedge the physical, the dealer now has to sell futures. And we know that futures are trading at 125. So the dealer can then protect themselves against any adverse movements in the physical price over time. Let's suppose now that on the 10th of August, suppose commodity prices have began to fall. Of course, as commodity prices fall, we'd expect futures prices to track on a downward movement as well. And the refiner sees this as a good opportunity to go into the market now and exercise their buyer's executable order. They feel this is an opportune moment in which to buy the commodity. So they contact the dealer, and recall that the dealer is obligated to offer the commodity for sale to the refiner at whatever the September price is prevailing at on the day that the executable order is carried out. So on the 10th of August, what we notice is that the September future is trading at $121. So what this means is that the dealer sells the physical commodity to the refiner and receives the price of $6 plus $121 equals $127. Now, because the dealer has sold the physical, they no longer need their futures contract. So they buy futures back, in this example, at 121, thus closing out the original short futures position. So what we've seen then is that the farmer has satisfied themselves in that they have sold the physical commodity to the dealer, and then later on in turn what we saw is that the refiner has purchased the physical commodity from the dealer and satisfied their needs. Now, how has this left the dealer? Well, we can see that the dealer has both bought physical and sold physical at two different prices, and also transacted in the futures markets during that period. So on the next slide, what we're going to do is to look at how the dealer has fared. On this slide then, what we can see is the net outcome as far as the dealer is concerned. In the physical market, the dealer, remember, bought the physical commodity from the farmer and paid $129, and later on sold the physical at a price of $127, thus losing $2 on the physical trade. But of course, when the dealer originally bought the physical from the farmer, they sold futures to hedge their position, because they were fearful that commodity prices would fall. Indeed, they did fall. So what happened was that later on, the futures contract was no longer needed, and they bought futures back at 121, because remember, they sold the physical commodity to the refiner. And what we notice, of course, is that the futures contract generated a profit, in this example, of $4. So the futures hedge of $4 offsets the loss of $2 on the physical position, and in effect locks in this profit, this extra outcome of $2. And that, of course, is the $2 spread that we saw earlier on when the dealer quoted the offer price and the bid price to the refiner and the farmer respectively. So just to summarize then, what we can see on this screen is how the dealer makes a living by providing a physical trade to the farmer and the dealer, and at the same time hedge their position with futures and also lock in a profit, in this case of $2.